Dear viewers, my name is Mert KARAOİLLU. I'm a master's degree student studying English language teaching in 9 Eylül University Institute of Educational Sciences. Since you're watching this video, you should be familiar with what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to have a little short presentation about research ethics, basically. Uh, Research ethics, this is part of my finals grade in my course EBE 5043 Research Techniques and Ethics, given by my dear teacher Leyla Harputlu, Professor Dr. Leyla Harputlu. So yes, what am I going to do today? Today I'm going to talk about basic principles of research ethics. I'm going to talk about whether there's a difference between qualitative and quantitative research ethics. I'm also going to talk about guidelines, frameworks, codes, these kinds of things around research ethics and reporting as well, reporting your research. So let's start. I will mostly be talking myself, but I will also be using a small PowerPoint presentation as part of my presentation. Let's move on. I digress. Basic principles of research ethics. What is ethics? Ethics is the most simple way that a decent man guides. Everyone has a code of ethic that they follow. Even if they are, I would say almost everyone, and even if they are like a sociopathic person, they still follow some sort of ethics that is kept by themselves, but that is still an ethics, but there is a certain degree of civilization standards that we should be striving for in ethics, especially when it comes to research, because research is not something subjective. Research is objective. So what we do must be considered morally understandable, morally fair, just, in every possible perspective that we can look at it from. Okay, ethics, research ethics are norms of conduct. How we behave, how we act, how we distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior, what is good and what is not, and what we should do and what we should not. At its essence, there are principles and there are guidelines that help us value what we hold true and what we believe to be true. The research ethics in question, ethics is that, but research ethics in question, it involves the application of ethical principles, basic fundamental ethical principles to a variety of topics. It can be in your research application, ethical board application. It can be about your topics like literature review. What kinds of documents are you viewing? Are you properly referencing them? It can be about that. It can be about everything within the research, whether you are doing it morally in a good way, we can say. It should be how a real scholar, a real scientist acts and behaves when it comes to conducting their research, basically. And it is a high standard. The importance of it, why we do it so as to show that we respect the people participating in our research, and so as to show that we respect the people who are viewing our research. So we are putting something good forward. We follow research ethics as a sign of respect for other researchers. We say that you are my equal. I'm trying to be like you. I'm striving to be like you. This is the standard that we all should be trying to uphold, so as to make a prosperous scientific community, maybe we can say. Also, it is a professional requirement, but it should not be the reason you follow them, because to me, this is just basic decency. Why we do it? Because we are decent people. As it says here, as you can see, it is a requirement to obtain funding in some situations. Some projects may require you to follow not some, basically all projects will require you to follow some ethical guideline, so as for you to obtain your funding from that project's manager. And it is a way to show that you actually care about what you do and you are doing it for a good cause, good sake, maybe we can say. If you do not follow this ethical guideline, this general understanding of ethics, your research will not be respected. You will not be respected. What you put forward will not be considered scientifical. It will not be considered something repeatable. It will not be considered something ethical, something nice, something suitable for humanity. And it will be also harmful to some degree to its participants. And let's see. What are these basic principles? You must be honest. You must talk about what you are doing, why you are doing it, all those kinds of things in honesty. You must not hide any information. You must be objective. You must not add feelings into your work. You must only view it from a scientific perspective and move on depending on that. You must include your integrity. What you say, what you do, these are important factors that make you a researcher. So you must be you must have that integrity quality within you. You must be careful. Careful as to what? You must be careful in the implications of your research. You must be careful with how potentially endangering it could be to your participants of the research. You must be careful with everything that you're doing. You must think about everything that you're doing in a way. How will this impact it? And does this make sense? I think a person with some kind of conscience, any person with a conscience basically can follow these. And if they have a sound mind, a mind that is understanding, they will understand all of this. And let's see, you must be open about what you do. You must not hide any information you found. If you are going to do so, why are you doing it? You must be talking about all of these things. You must respect intellectual property. So you can't just copy off of someone's research and not cite them, not ask their permission. You must not do these things. Confidentiality, this is very important for your participants. For example, you are doing a questionnaire. You are getting some data from a questionnaire. Is the confidentiality of the participants ensured? Do you guarantee that, right? You must guarantee it because that data that you are collecting for a scientific purpose may somehow backfire to those people if you do not ensure their confidentiality. People with ill intent can use them for their ill intent, as you can understand. You must respect your colleagues. You must not discriminate in your research. Your research should be used essentially, your research should be for the betterment of humanity, not for discrimination, not for racism, not for sexism, not for anything, any kind of discrimination. And does this provide also social responsibility? Does this provide some sort of good result for humanity? You might want to ask yourself. And uh, research ethics can be applied to how you cite authors, how you value the author's input and output in a research. So you must show your respect to them properly. Research ethics applies to plagiarism. You must not plagiarize from other people. You must not quote them and not reference them. You must reference them properly. You must ensure that the research that they do, if you are going to use it somehow in your own research, you must ensure that people understand that their research also had an impact on yours. And you must also show your viewers some sort of way to obtain that research as well, the research that you're referencing. It can be applied in peer review. If a journal is not peer reviewed, and if it is peer reviewed but it is not peer reviewed properly, so the author's own identities, etc., these are not kept confidential, maybe we can say, that is a breach of ethic guidelines. These are important, especially research with animals. Does it provide some sort of animal harm? And perhaps more importantly, does it provide any harm towards humans? Social sciences should especially be careful with this. For example, we are studying to become English language teachers. I am an English language teacher, but I'm studying to be a better English language teacher. And my first aim should be to improve the language learning abilities of people. But if my research somehow provides not a valuable input to this, but compromises some people's ability of learning, then this is not ethical, this is not decent. I would have a guilty conscience first and foremost, and misconduct as well. You must not do these. Now, I do not have these parts in my PowerPoint presentation, but I want to talk about something. Qualitative and quantitative research. What are they? Quantitative is a type of research that we use, quantitative research methods. This is a method that we use to collect generally bigger amounts of data over in a less specific area and more broad area. So maybe questionnaires, right? For example, 100 people, you distribute questionnaires to 100 people and you collect the results and you analyze them, any kinds of correlations, whatever. This is a quantitative research. And a qualitative research, as its name suggests, it values quality. So, for example, a longitudinal study of a single person, how their, for example, language learning attitudes change during 5 years, maybe something like this. This is a qualitative research. A qualitative research can take something from, like, we can do it as an interview, you can do it as a like a monthly, weekly, maybe yearly, annually, interview meeting, as a recording, you can record it, these kinds of things, and they are this is what they are. Now, research ethics in quantitative and research ethics in qualitative research methods, are they different? Is there a difference? How does ethics impact their submission procedure, maybe we can say? For quantitative research, I'm going to continue off of my questionnaire example. Quantitative research, you must ensure that the data collected will not be somehow traced back to the participants, because this might end up having some sort of consequence, unwanted consequence towards these participants. This also applies for qualitative, but it is a more general rule of thumb for quantitative. And perhaps most importantly for quantitative, you must ensure that the data you share is not the kind of, for example, if you're looking at data from 5 different perspectives and you had 5 hypotheses for these perspectives, and 3 of them, right, these 3 did not match each other, so you must not omit them. You must not omit them. You must give all the data you found. You must show all the findings. You must talk about everything, and you must be able to say, this is that, and I believe this is why we found it, and this can have implications like this. This is very important and quantitative, because a researcher may write their research article. After all their process is finished, they can just omit the hypotheses that they had in the beginning, and only go with the hypotheses that they had, that they somehow were able to prove, right? And if they gave the data after that and it matches what they had, then they can say, my research is perfect. I did this and I found it, and I have no flaws here. But this is wrong, because the data you found, just because the data you found didn't correlate with the results that you wanted, it does not mean that you have the right to eliminate that data and omit it. It does not give you that right. This is very important. I don't want to take up too much time, because my dear professor is going to watch this, hopefully. So I will move on. There are many more concerns that we ought to look at, but I will move on. For qualitative research, guidelines, general guidelines, the first one that I talked about in quantitative quite much applies here, because a longitudinal study, for example, you select the child, 5 years old, and you observe them, you interview with them, you see their attitudes, you see how they develop their skills, whatever, through a 5-year period, maybe we can say. The data that you will observe, the data you will collect and analyze and then share, publish in the scientific community, is a data that will be very valuable. It will not be a widely applicable data, because it's a qualitative study, but it will be a very valuable data set that you found, because it will show in great detail your findings. You know, this means that what you find shows a lot of uh, details about the procedure itself, which is perfect, which is great actually for research procedures and how, especially in social sciences, I believe this is very important. So qualitative data is very valuable, but this also means all this data means that the participant pool that a person can think of when they're reading it gets lower and lower and lower and lower. So it is very easy if a person has bad intent, if they want to somehow harm you or the participant, it is extremely easy for them to find the participant and somehow cause harm and or somehow some sort of information breach, privacy breach. This is very easy to happen in qualitative research. So a researcher must put utmost effort in ensuring that it is confidential. That is very important. And is there anything else I want to talk about? I want to talk about, I have talked enough. So, lastly, for my before I finish, I would like to talk about our institute's uh, ethical board, maybe we can say. As you can see, it says here, bilimsel araştırma ve yayın etiği kurulları, DÖ, BAYEK. My university's ethical boards. It means scientific study and publishing ethics boards. This is the procedure. So what do they want from you? I want to give you a specific example as to what a respectable ethical board would want from you. And respectable implies my university's ethical board. And I'm definitely not exaggerating my university's status just because I'm studying here. Definitely not. That would not be ethical. That would not be ethical. Anyways, let's move on. I'm going to look at the documents that they ask from you for to give you a proper approval of a research of any kinds of research that you are going to present. I'm going to very quickly talk about them so that you may understand the procedure, understand the documents that they ask for, and what kind of implications that these documents have in your research. So, for example, as it says, gönüllü katılımcı onam formu. So basically, volunteer form. What kind of implication can it have? The implication is that the participants are doing it voluntarily. So the form here would be given to the participants, and the participants want to sign it and say that I am a volunteer in this research. These kinds of things. Really quickly, I'm going to cover them, and then I'm going to finish this presentation because people actually want to watch it. And people actually should be able to watch it. So let's not make it too long. I will look at this lastly. This is the first one and most important one, but I will look at it lastly. First one here, veli vasi onam formu. This is for people who are not adults yet. So, for example, social sciences, educational sciences, you are dealing with a lot of children. So, any kinds of research that you want to conduct on children studying, students, you need to have the approval of their parents, their guardians, we can say. So, this is for that. Maybe I can show it. This is the form. As you can see, it's talking in detail, the researcher's name and the guardian's name and all these information. And it's talking about the ethical procedures that the researcher will adhere to. And it is asking for permission from the guardian to conduct studies, conduct research in the matter that they want to conduct in here. This one. Gönüllü katılımcı onam form, as I said, voluntary research form. This is this one. Let me open that one as well really quickly. This one is for normal adult people, people who have their sound minds and have the right to make decisions for themselves. So this is all details about your research, your names, all kinds of details, your information, contacts. The aim of your research, the responsibilities of the participants, the rights that they have. So, for example, the right to leave the research whenever they want. This is very important. You must state this very often. From my personal experiences, I can easily say that you must state this right. Katılım tamamen gönüllüdür ve katılımcı istediği zaman araştırmadan çekilme hakkına sahiptir. The research is absolutely voluntary and the participants have the right to leave the research whenever they want. This is very important. They can refuse. It is not forced. It must be voluntary. Uh, and for the researcher, maybe it is sad, if especially you're a novice researcher, this is your first time, you're not a senior scholar, you will understand this. For example, your thesis, master's thesis, you're giving out questionnaires of some sort, and you say, this is a research by me, and like blah blah blah. I would be very happy if you participated, but it is absolutely voluntary. There are no obligations, there are no consequences to you not joining. And for example, 10 people in a class, 5 of them will get up and leave. You might think, that is so disrespectful, but it is voluntary. You can't force these people. That's the gimmick of this, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, this is the way. And if they're not voluntarily participating, you will not have a valuable data to be collected from them anyways. People will just uh, give random results to you just so that they can leave the questionnaire filling session quickly. So yes, all these details, any kinds of risks, any kinds of benefits to this research, their confidentiality, the privacy procedure, any kinds of additional information, and voluntary signatures, etc. These are the things that they need to provide. And let's see this one. Araştırma izni başvuru taahhütnamesi. This is for the researchers. This is to show that the researchers want to conduct research in this area, and we are willing to take these risks. We are willing to understand these are responsibilities, and that's it. And they sign it like that. Let me really quickly look at it. This one, taahhütname. There are a lot of bullet points. I'm not going to talk about all of them. Basically, responsibilities of the researchers, and they sign their names and the dates and whatever. And let's see. Educational sciences. Normally, if it was about general research ethics, maybe I could have skipped this one, but I'm studying in educational sciences, so I should mention this one as well. If you're doing your research in Educational Government Institute, Milli Eğitim Bakanlığı, right? Ministry of National Education, you need specific approvals in that regard, so you need that. If you are doing this research not within a single institution, but like across different institutions that are not administered through the same authority system, maybe we can say, you need different kinds of ethical board approvals, and you need to provide them when you are expanding your research, let's say. And let's see. In our institute, there are 3 different ethical boards, one for the social sciences, one for STEM, basically, and one for medicinal sciences. I'm going to skip these 2. I'm going to only look at this. Let's lastly look at our application form really quickly, really quickly, this one. The name of your research, the people who want to participate in the research. I'm sorry, the researchers, basically, their contact numbers, their signatures, whatever, the department that you are working in. So, for example, foreign languages department, English language teaching, something like this. Why you are doing it, the quality of this research. Is it for a research article? Is it for a master's degree thesis, something like this, dissertation, something like that? The status, the aim of the research, important, 150 words it says. Why are you doing it? What kind of benefit it will provide to the researchers and the participants? The summary of the research. You have not finished the research, you are going to start it, but you have the general procedure in your mind at this point, basically. So it asks you for the summary. Whether it is supported or not, whether it is funded. For example, a TÜBİTAK project, something like this. Quantitative data collection tools, questionnaires, scales, what kind of scales, these things. Qualitative research qualitative data collection tools, interviews, recordings, pictures, observation, whatever. The scale. Do you have the scale ready? Did you develop the scale? Are you going to develop the scale? Or are you do you have the permission from another author, another researcher to use their scale in this field? If so, you must also provide a screenshot of an email that asks permission from them, and another screenshot of an email that says that, yes, we do give you permission to use our research, use our scale. You must give and detail the names of these scales, and by whom these scales are made and for what purpose, basically. The data collection time period, when it starts and when it ends. It must be a sensible date period. The settings, the situation, the context of the participants, the research participants. So what kind of students, the teachers, what kind of personnel, what are they, who are they? That's what they're asking for. Their age group, this is important, especially for the younger ones. And the institutions that you will be collecting data from, and whether or not do you need approvals from these institutes, and if you do, the approvals themselves, some sort of written approval, the amount of participants that you are expecting to be within your research, as well, as you can see here. The similarity report, the similarity of your research, to show that you are not ripping off someone else, and how you are going to collect data and what kind of data is it. These, for example, these can be variable factors that you use to show some findings in your research. For example, media literacy, you had a article about media literacy, but what kind of variables it changes media literacy, affects media literacy, you are looking at that. So for example, the variable could be their birth date. Do people born in August have a higher media literacy rate? This is kind of stupid, but if you're looking for a research question like this, the answers to this question, then you need these data. But these data, in turn, as I said before, can be traced back to these participants. It can breach their confidentiality. So this is important. You can look for these data, but you must be careful. The more data, the more kind of data like this that you are looking at. It is quite important. The way that you're going to use the data, the way that you're going to conduct your research, and what kind of places that you will be storing it in, and for how long as well, and when you will absolutely eliminate all kinds of data. That's important. Again, as I said, guardians, and adult participation forms, and guardian participation forms. Do you tell them in detail about their rights, basically? Any kinds of risks that this research possesses. So if, for example, you are doing very simple, you don't have any risks. But if it's something that is on the brinks of scientific community, you are looking at the frontier, there may be risks like bodily harm, psychological harm, any kinds of bullying. Maybe educational sciences could deal in bullying, and it is a very great risk. And these kinds of things, any kind of preparation that you took against these risks, basically, and information about the researchers. That was it for my presentation. This is research ethics in quantitative, basic principles of research ethics, how it differs in quantitative research and qualitative research, and the research ethics procedure, the application procedure for having the research ethics board committee approval within my institute of 9 Eylül University. This was what my presentation was about. And if you watch this, thank you for watching this. I'm grateful. And if my dear professor is watching this, I am sorry that this presentation was longer than you asked for. I hope it will be acceptable for you. I believe that I have given quite a lot of information, but I also had to omit quite a lot of information so as to keep up with the time, the duration limits that you have given to me. And lastly, thank you.